ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, kids of all ages, Arcade probably brings to you Emo Demon VTuber, the Principus, Filling Up Sir, Future Noble Emperor of the World, OverExposedKaiju, and today we are back on the reaction channel, and we are going to be reacting to some Oversimplified. And we're going to be doing, like, there's so much in Oversimplified that I want to react to. Like, there's so much content here. The first one we're going to start doing, like, World War One. And then we're going to do the Hitler series, and then we're going to, because they have a couple of videos on like Hitler and his uprising. And then we're going to do World War II. And then from there, there's a few other ones I want to do. Nothing or anything. But yeah, those are ones that I'm talking towards, like, when I get to World War. Sorry, excuse me. I want to get to World War One and World War II and the Hitler backstory going. Because the World Wars are two or some, like, World War One and World War Two are probably some of the, like, most enjoyable things to learn about. Not really enjoyable in terms of, like, happy sunshine and rainbows, but, like, really fascinating. Because World War One and World War Two, it really changed the world, and it really it was kind of like what led to what is the modern world today. Because with World War One and World War Two, it caused the collapse of empires and monarchies around the world. It caused many of the world's most powerful nations, like the British Empire, the French Empire, the German Empire, the Russian Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the Nazi Empire. Basically, like throughout World War One and World War Two, it caused all of them to collapse, or led to their collapse. And it's just really fascinating to me. But yeah, we're now we're gonna do World War One in Part 1, and Part 2. We'll probably combine them for now. Or we'll combine Part 1 and Part 2 for World War 1 into this video, and then we'll do Hitler's story for another video, which will lead up to Part 2, World War 2, and I think just Part 1 too. So yeah, that's what we got. Anyways, but today we're rewatching World War 1 Part 1 and Part 2. So let's get right on into it.
World of 1914, a time of modern technology, culture, and fashion.
Yeah.
Truly the height of civilization.
Bro. Holy shit. Hostone Ostrich Farm? Was this a real thing? Like, obviously it's a real thing. Like, I'm gonna assume this has to be a real picture, right? But, like, the early 1900s, and, like, late 1800s, this was actually a common practice. Just running around ostriches. Alright.
Let's have a war.
Alright, of course.
A big war was coming. France wanted some stuff back that Germany had taken from it. Germany wanted to take more of everyone's stuff, and they were building a big sexy navy that was making the British uncomfortable.
Oh yeah. The German Empire was definitely building an army. Like they wanted to challenge the British Empire in the seas. And then also France and Germany. France and Germany are probably, like, they were bitter rivals at this point. The French and Germany had a war in the early, like, 1970. I want to say the 1971. The Franco-Prussian War, which Prussia, at the time, destroyed the Second French Empire, which ruled by Napoleon III, and that led to the creation of the German Empire.
Everyone knew a big war was coming. France wanted.
And one of the things that came from Germany beating France after the Franco-Prussian War was this territory right here, Alsace-Lorraine. This was French territory, pre Franco-Prussian War. And during the war, Germany basically conquered it because France was, rebelling. They were not really rebelling, but they were not surrendering. So they just kind of took this land over, and after the war, they added as the peace treaty, like, yeah, we're just gonna annex Alsace-Lorraine. Yeah, and there's been, like, beef between, like, France and Germany since the Franco-Prussian War. France actually put like, a bunch of like forts, which I'm sure we're supposed to talk about here in a little bit. But they put forts like all around their border, and it's honestly probably one of the greatest defensive measures of the time, of the era. Just trying to prepare for in case Germany comes back with with an invasion, they can fight back with these like forts and everything.
Some stuff back that Germany had taken from it. Germany wanted to take more of everyone's stuff.
Yeah.
And they were building a big sexy navy that was making the British uncomfortable. These two empires thought they were really cool, but lots
Austria-Hungary and Ottoman Empire.
Sexy navy that was making the British uncomfortable. These two
So Austria-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire at this point is basically it's collapsing. So they're just like building up to World War One. The Ottoman Empire, it's been known as a sick man of Europe, for decades at this point. It was a dying empire. The other their empires like France and British Empire were kind of trying to keep it alive. To keep the balance of power in Europe balanced. But at this point, the Ottoman Empire was just dying. They fought Italy in like 1908. During the Turkish-Italian War, or Talo War, which Italy got Liberia from that, which was one of the last possessions the Ottoman had in Africa. And then they also just got done a few years prior to this, fighting two massive Balkan wars, with the Balkan states right here, which were all once upon a time conquered by the Ottoman Empire. So these were all once upon a time part of the Ottoman Empire, but they were all breaking away, doing their independence. And at this point, the Ottoman Empire was just like it was a shell of its former glory. It was an empire in great turmoil and decline. And Austria-Hungary, it's Austria-Hungary. It's a multi-ethnic empire. Once upon a time, great power. And it's been diminishing in its prestige and power at this point, through various reasons. But yeah, Austria-Hungary was also an empire in decline at a great rate at this point. There were actually plans. I believe it's slightly prior to World War One. They actually turned the empire into like an Austrian federation, going from an empire more into like a federation. So to keep the country together, but it would no longer be technically an empire; it'd be a confederation. It's a whole other thing, but there's plans. They were trying to adapt, but they were kind of adapting a little too late, honestly.
empires thought they were really cool, but lots of different people who lived there didn't think it was so cool. And some of them had even been declaring independence
Yep, Balkan Wars.
with help from Russia. Everyone was talking about each other behind each other's backs, throwing the fact that military technology had come a long way.
Oh yeah. So at this point, the last massive war in Europe, I would say if we're kind of all of Europe, was probably Napoleonic Wars, which was the early 1800s. There's a few other wars, like the Crimean Wars and stuff like that, and then there was also the Franco-Prussian War, like I mentioned earlier. But it's been a long time since there was a massive European war, and especially in the last couple at this point, the last couple of decades, technology just advanced so much. The guns they had started getting a lot better. Snipers were starting better. They had machine guns were becoming more available, and had been available for a couple of decades at this point. War techniques were changing. The cavalry was starting to become outdated. And planes are in their very infancy at this point, but the Wright brothers completed the first flight in 1904, and it was like a decade later World War One started. So like, but planes were a pretty big part in World War One. And then also tanks. Well, like, tanks weren't technically around yet, because World War One hasn't officially started yet. But the British would develop tanks to fight the trench warfare, and the no man's land, that kind of stuff. I'm sure to talk about it here for a second, but yeah,
Since the last major war, and suddenly everyone was pretty eager to beat each other up.
Yeah, they want to fight.
In this area of Austria-Hungary live some Serbs and Bosnians who hated living in Austria-Hungary. So the Austro-Hungarian Archduke Franz Ferdinand goes there for a nice drive in an open-top car with his car's route published in advance.
Why would you do that, though? Why would you... Okay. Why would you publish 7 essential tips for assassination world leaders? You won't believe number 3. Like, that's just asking for trouble, right? Cause this guy, Archduke Ferdinand, he's the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne. Like, he's supposed to be the next emperor of Austria-Hungary. After, he's the heir apparent to the Austro-Hungarian throne. He's like supposed to be your future emperor, and they publish his route in a paper, and that's not gonna cause any problems.
And that went just about as well as you'd expect.
Yeah,
Some
assassinated.
assassins were waiting for him along the way and threw bombs at his car, but they missed and blew up some officers behind him instead. So the Archduke goes into hiding, leaves Sarajevo, and the whole war never happens.
Nope.
Except no, the Archduke doesn't leave, but instead goes back out in the open-top car.
Why would you, though? Why would you? Like, you just survived an assassination attempt on your life, right? And I can understand. Let's finish this up quickly.
To visit the injured officers in hospital, the driver takes a wrong turn and by sheer coincidence gets stuck beside one of the failed assassins, who shoots him.
Okay. It's like, I can understand, like, wanting to go back and, like, see the police officers that got injured on your behalf, because the bomb was intended for you, and the police officers who were, innocent police officers who started their jobs, they got caught up in the whole thing, got injured. So, like, I can understand wanting to go back and be like, hey, I'm sorry this happened to you guys. This was, doing a respectful thing and seeing these police officers got injured on your behalf, I guess. But you just survived an assassination attempt. Like, you were literally just almost bombed, and you're like, all right, let's go back out and let's go to the hospital. Like, no, you know what you do? You leave. You get out of there. Like, you don't go around, drive around on the streets again. Trying to get to the hospital. What you do is like, all right, this is obviously dangerous. You don't want us here. We should probably leave. It's like that would have been like what I would have done. That's probably what anybody would have done. Like, you just survived an assassination attempt, and you want to go back out where the assassins still could be lurking around. Like, bro, this doesn't make any sense. It's so dumb, and it resulted in Archduke Ferdinand getting assassinated, and his wife. Yeah, his wife also got murdered.
Austria-Hungary is understandably pissed about all this, and they think the Serbian government...
Oh, also, something that's actually really cool, I think it's kind of cool, is on the license plate of the Archduke's car, it basically predicted the date of the end of the war. Like, I got here. Let me look this up quickly. Archduke Ferdinand license. I know I can't spell. Plates. Okay, so His Sophia traveling in a car bearing the number plate ALL or AIII 118. So basically, which some have read this as a date as the eventual armistice of the war. 11/11/11/1918. So armistice 11/11/18. Because the armistice happened on the 11th day of the 11th or the 11th hour, 11th day of the 11th month of 1918, which was the day the armistice ended, and basically it ended fighting in World War One, which is really interesting. It's something that I find really, really interesting. But anyways,
it had something to do with it, which they might have. So they go to their ally Germany and say, "Hey Germany, we're going to declare war on Serbia," and Germany is all for that. So Austria-Hungary send a big list of impossible demands to Serbia, and when Serbia refuses,
they only rejected one though. There was a big list of things, yes, but they only rejected one thing, and I believe the one thing they rejected was the ability for Austria-Hungary to conduct their own investigation within Serbia to find out the whole situation and to find out basically like was Serbia involved in this assassination attempt. But yeah, everything else they're like, okay, yeah, we can, yeah, okay, yep, okay, yep. But and then when it came to Austria-Hungary like doing their own investigation, Serbia's like, nope, can't do that. I'm sorry. And then that's what led to the war with Serbia and Austria-Hungary, which led to Russia getting involved, Germany getting involved, France getting involved, and the domino effects.
Declare war. Austria-Hungary and Germany are friends, and Serbia is protected by Russia, who's friends with France, so they'll declare war on each other. Montenegro joins in too. France and Britain also have a kind of alliance. So when France says, "Hey Britain, you got my back," Britain is like,
maybe.
And then they decide to stay out of it.
Okay, so Russia and France are allies. The Franco-Russian alliance. It was kind of a counterbalance for Germany, especially since Germany was acting really sus, and was kind of like doing like contradictory messages, and everybody's getting sus to the German Empire at this point. So it led to Germany and France and Russia forming an alliance, which two-front war, never good business. Germany and Italy, Germany and Austria were allies, but they also had an alliance with Italy, which was a triple alliance, but Italy decided to stay neutral, at least for the beginning of the war. And when they do join, they join on the Allies side, because they promised Italy a bunch of like colonial concessions and territory for joining in, which they never get.
Which is great.
Or they don't get most of it. They get a little bit though.
Germany has a plan. They know that Russia is so big and clumsy that it will take them a while to get ready for war.
True.
So with this guy in charge, Germany will send all its troops into France at lightning speed while Russia's getting ready, defeat France, then move all the troops to Russia and defeat Russia, and then we all speak German and eat Pfefferpottast every day.
Also a pretty good idea.
France has loads of forts and defenses along its German border.
This is what I was talking about earlier. When I was talking about the forts that they built along like the border with Germany. This is basically to prevent Germany from invading France.
And Germany can't waste any time fighting them, so Germany decides to go.
Which they invested a lot of money and time into these forts.
Around them through Belgium. Belgium is neutral, but Germany wants to march 750,000 troops through it to get around France's.
Which led our favorite party empire into the war. Like, yeah, so Belgium was neutral, and Belgium was guaranteed its safety and independence by the British Empire. So you invade a neutral nation, which makes you look like the bad guy already. German Empire, good job. And you piss off the biggest empire in the world, the British Empire. Now you basically just this whole move right here. Like, I understand why they did it, because they want to get around the forts, and it'll help prevent slaughtering of countless troops and stuff like that, potentially. But this, like, invading a neutral country, it's just never good. It makes you look like the bad guy. And it leads to the British Empire getting involved, and it's just bad business.
Belgium will just kind of sit down and shut up, but they don't. They fight back, and they're pretty good too, so they slow the Germans down. What's worse is that Britain shows up, and they're pretty pissed that Germany's invading neutral countries. So now Britain declares war on Germany. So Germany push on through Belgium and commit some atrocities along the way. They also wear spikes and sometimes skulls on their uniform.
Nice.
So if you're trying to not look like the bad guys, good job. The Allies
mission successful.
Extravaganza, and this starts having an influence around the world, notably in America. The U.S. President Woodrow Wilson sees himself as a bit
Gross. 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 We hate Woodrow. We hate Woodrow Wilson around here. He is literally the worst president in U.S. history. Literally the worst. I hate Woodrow Wilson. I hate him with a passion. I could really go on like a 2, 3, 4, 5 day rant about why I hate Woodrow Wilson. I'm not going to. But I fucking hate this man with a passion.
of a Jesus figure and spends most of the war trying to get everyone to just hug it out.
Fuck off, Woodrow.
Population of ethnic Germans living in the United States, and when the war first broke out, they were like, "Yay, Germany!" But now that they're committing atrocities in Belgium, they're less enthusiastic. Let's play Spot the French Soldier.
He's right there.
Did you see him? Easy, right?
Yeah.
He's wearing a bright blue uniform with red trousers. And do you know who else spotted him easily too? The Germans.
France is just very. Like, this could not fly anymore in the modern war. Like, France is still in like 1800s war mode. Like,
so when the French were
like shit like that is just. I would not fly in modern warfare. You can't have uniforms like that. You can't have like bright, colorful uniforms anymore. Those days are over. Like, at this point, you want to try not to be spotted. If you get spotted, you're gonna get gunned down. It's without hesitation usually. Like, you have to have more, more like modern-ish. Like, obviously, this isn't like 100% modern, but more modern-ish military equipment or like gear, military equipment doesn't really stand out like it did in the past.
slowly marching in columns through the countryside, the Germans easily tore them to shreds.
Like imagine the British Empire coming to World War I, and they're wearing like the red coats that they wore during the French Revolution. Like, that was basically what France was doing. Like, they were wearing like these big flashy uniforms, which, like, back in the day, like, in centuries, decades past, like, all right, that's fine. But the war changed greatly. Like I said, over like the last couple of decades leading up to World War I, and you can't really do that anymore. Like, it's just the war has changed. The world has evolved. And war has evolved, and if you're gonna go around with flash uniforms, you're gonna get your soldiers in trouble.
With their giant guns, all the nations involved in this war went in with an old school war mentality.
War is adventure. Bayonet charges are cool. Cavalry is very effective. Bounty for your country is awesome. Nope. Bayonet charges are cool. They are cool, but they're outdated. Cavalry is very effective. Depends. There were some cavalry charges during World War I who were effective, and it did work. Not very many. Like, there were a few cavalry charges that were very effective, and there's another video from Unknown 5, which we'll probably watch here in the future. But talking about the cavalry charges and stuff like that. And I know World War I did have a couple effective cavalry charges, but by this point, they were just outdated. Cavalry charges were more of a danger to, and more hassle than they were worth at this point. Because, like, when you have like no man's land, full of like barbed wires and mines and snipers and all this shit, right? It's just like you can't go in there with horse and cavalry anymore. Like it doesn't work anymore. It's just outdated, and it's more hassle and more danger than it's worth. Dying for your country is awesome. I mean, I that was a bit harder because I think it depends on the person. Some people say yeah they'd probably die for the country, and other people be like no I don't want to die. For a lot of people dying is scary, and it's a great unknown of what happens after you die. It's terrifying for a lot of people. So I think this one's kind of like depends on the person type thing. Some people are like, yeah, I'll die for my country. I'll die for the honor of my nation. And other people be like, no, that's not for me. War is an adventure. Yes, it is an adventure, but it's also an adventure of horrors.
And all of them had to update their uniforms and tactics a lot.
Very outdated. Okay, Russia was not bad, but they were not wearing helmets. First of all. No boots, Serbia. But Serbia was broke at this point. Like I said a while ago, Serbia was one of the nations that fought during. They fought down an empire. It's like a few years prior. To World War I in the Balkan Wars. So they were lacking equipment. They were lacking quite a bit of equipment and stuff, and they were, France was just. Wow. France. Like, this is not okay in a modern war. This is not okay at all. And Russia's alright. They was lacking helmets. They needed helmets.
During the Great War. Because this war was going to be like nothing anyone had ever seen before.
Fucking, yeah, goddamn France.
Russia's ready for war, and way earlier than expected. Hey, Austria-Hungary, can you get on top of that?
No.
Oh yeah, sure, we've got this. Nope.
And destroyed.
So Germany has to send some troops back to the east to defend against the Russians. The chief of staff of the Austro-Hungarian army is this guy, and although he is handsome,
he's pretty handsome.
To be the best military strategist. Austria-Hungary constantly ignores Germany's advice, and then comes running back to Germany whenever they get in trouble.
Dude, Germany was the MVP of World War I. Like, I feel like if Germany was so dominant during World War I, it's insane. Like, yeah, they lose. But they were so dominant, and they arguably had the best military in the world at this point. It's like after years and years and years of Germany basically fighting the largest empires in the world, and their other allies is pretty much collapsing. It took that for Germany to be like, all right, and having France and Russia, two of the most powerful nations, in the British Empire. And the Americas coming into Germany to get involved in the war. It took all of that for Germany to finally collapse. Or not really collapse, but surrender. Sign armistice. It took most of our allies to collapse. It took several of the largest empires in human history. And having, basically had to fight 2 front war. Except for late in World War I. Because later in World War I, they'll talk about it here probably soon. The Russian Empire pulls out because of revolutions, and they'll get more into that later. But yeah, it took a lot for Germany to surrender. So I think Germany was probably the MVP. And I feel like if they actually had competent allies, unlike Austria-Hungary, and if the Ottoman Empire wasn't dying, I feel like Germany I feel like World War I could have very easily could have been a German victory. Obviously, there's more to it than that, but this is on your footing like the French and British empires, which, like I said, are two of the largest empires ever. And it's, they had resources in abundance, they had people in abundance, and by the time 1918 came, Germany was starving. The naval blockades that British put up. It was basically like not allowing food coming into Germany, and the people of Germany were starving.
Austria-Hungary even gets its ass kicked by tiny Serbia.
Jesus.
All their invasion attempts at the start of the war.
It's crazy, because Austria-Hungary was once upon a time.
News for Germany.
There's okay, that was way too quick. I didn't get, but Austria-Hungary was once upon a time considered like the most powerful German state in the world. Like back when they had we said like the Holy Roman Empire and the German Confederation and stuff like that. Like Austria-Hungary was seen as like was considered one of the most, if not the most powerful German states. Of the entire German world. So then the Austrian Empire and later Austria-Hungary, it's just crazy how much they fell. Because Austria was once upon a time was probably one of the most powerful nations in Europe, with like lots of prestige, and yeah, and not to mention they were controlled by the Habsburgs, which the Habsburgs are a whole nother story, which we'll probably talk about them in another video. But the Habsburgs are probably one of the most powerful families in European history, and the most incest family probably ever in human history.
In the north, though, where they almost completely wipe out the Russian Second Army. Back on the Western Front, the Germans continue advancing and are in sight of Paris. At this point, anyone would be forgiven for thinking that
just tiny Belgium is chilling here. Look at that, poor Belgium. He's just chilling. He's just hanging out.
Germans were going to get that quick victory after all, but then things start to go wrong. The French commander-in-chief knew something had to be done, and he ordered his armies to stop retreating. In the resulting battle, a gap opened up in the German lines. If a gap opens up, the enemy can use it to flank you from the side and behind.
Yep.
So the German armies have to retreat. The Allies launch a counter.
Damn, they were so close.
The Germans dig into defensive positions. The Allies do this.
It was actually Germany was like, I think it was like they were within 20 miles of Paris at one point. Like they were so close. Like maybe like German soldiers like recorded, like wrote like notes and like recorded like the fact they could like hear church bells from Paris. They were that close. They could hear like church bells from Paris. I believe they were within like 20 miles of Paris, which it's actually very close. It's just how close they got to Paris. And if they got to Paris, like Paris, is like the epicenter of France, and for a large, it's like you get to Paris, France collapses.
Same. Then both sides move north, trying to outflank each other along the way. When they reach the sea, they're in a stalemate with trench systems running the whole way from the coast to Switzerland. The beginning of trench warfare.
You could act if you actually go here. Take this area right here. You can actually still see like remnants of like the trenches, and there's still like barbed wire. And if I remember right, there's actually like there's signs up around here too. Because like there's like I said, there's like barbed wire everywhere, and there's I believe there's still like landmines like lit around here too. From World War One. So they have like signs around, like warning people, be careful around this area. Because like there's still very much trenches and shit around here, and like mines and barbed wire and stuff.
Here's how trench warfare works. Two opposing lines of trenches with no man's land in between. One side would pummel the other with hundreds of thousands of artillery shells, sometimes for days at a time. This had a huge psychological effect on the soldiers, leaving many shell-shocked.
Yeah.
Then the attacking troops would leave their trenches and rush across no man's land, a muddy wet mass of shell craters and barbed wire. The defending trench would unleash machine gun fire on the attackers, inflicting thousands of casualties. The attackers would send wave after wave until either they gave up or the opposing trench was finally overrun. There would be months of fighting and the deaths of thousands in order to gain a few meters or kilometers of land.
Jesus.
Living in the trenches was hard work too. Corpses, mud that could swallow you whole, pools of poisonous...
There was actually records of like German soldiers saying like when they're defending their trenches, that they barely even had to aim. There were so many soldiers, like, they could basically like hold still, just fire, and they would be hitting soldiers. Like they barely had to aim, and they were hitting like French and British soldiers trying to get to their trenches, or trying to get to the German trenches. Trying to run through it past the landline. Like there's a German soldier. Sorry, there's been multiple like German soldiers accounts saying like, they barely even had to aim, and they would just like gun down hundreds and hundreds of soldiers by barely even aiming. It's really horrifying stuff.
Water, rats, disease, the smell. It's insane that millions of soldiers put up with these conditions, and commanders ordered them to do so for years.
For almost 4 years, yeah. Crazy. Alright. Let's continue with part 2. Part 2.
With both sides stuck in a hard stalemate, they knew this war wasn't going to be about taking territory, but about simply wearing each other down.
Yep.
The Allies had plenty of men to expend from its overseas dominions, and the British
Oh, yeah,
started a naval blockade, so Germany couldn't import.
Like I said before,
Down. The Allies had plenty of men to expend from its overseas.
Yep. France and British, like I said, they had two of the biggest empires in human history. France owned like all of Vietnam and a few like the territories surrounding Vietnam. They owned like a bunch of Africa, most of Africa right here. British owned Canada, India, most of India, Australia. Russia basically had all of this. Russia was like Russia even to like the Russian Empire at its peak, it was the third largest empire in human history. The only empires bigger than the Russian Empire were the Mongol Empire and the British Empire, which British Empire was all this, and then this, and then there's a little bit of there's some French there. There's like the French and British Empire were just massive. And of course, the Russian Empire.
The British also started a naval blockade, so Germany couldn't import stuff, like food. Neither side really wanted a long, grueling war, though, so they both thought of ways to break the deadlock on the Western Front. Idea number 1, new frontiers. When the war first broke out, Australia was quick to take German New Guinea. The Allies also quickly jumped on Germany's colonies in Africa, and particularly in German East Africa, locals were enlisted as soldiers and carriers by both sides.
Makes sense. Like you don't want Germany to use their colonies for resources or manpower. So the way to combat that would be to obviously take them over, conquer them. So Germany can't use their colonies to get resources or to get manpower from their colonies.
Leading to a tragic loss of life for the native Africans. Some new combatants entered the war as well. The Allies' new friends were Italy and Japan.
Yep.
Japan was busy building itself an empire. So
It was. Japan was an empire building nation at this time. Like they just opened up a few decades earlier. And they were modernizing quickly. I believe Japan was actually one of the fastest nations in human history to actually modernize. And they started, started conquering territories, Taiwan, the Ryukyu Islands, Korea, and of course, and some other possessions. And yeah, they went around. They didn't really do a whole lot. Okay, I shouldn't say they didn't do a whole lot, but in terms of like the main theaters of the war, Japan's main focus was like they were allies more in name than anything else. They were more or less more invested in taking over Germany's Pacific territories, like here and here.
more than happy to take away.
Like these little islands that Germany owned. Japan's goal was just basically to go around and conquer all of Germany's Pacific possessions to add to their empire.
German islands and colonies in East Asia.
Yep.
Italy actually had an alliance with Germany and Austria-Hungary. before
Yep,
the war.
triple alliance.
But after some tense relations, and then the Allies promising to give them some of Austria-Hungary's stuff, they switched sides. Italy opened up a front in the mountains here, but like everyone else, they were stuck in stalemate for most of the war. The Central Powers' new friend was a struggling empire in the Middle East.
The Ottoman Empire. Dude, it's actually insane looking at the Ottoman Empire at this stage, because the Ottoman Empire was a superpower at one point. They were an empire that was actually feared by much of Europe at one point, and they took a huge fight to the Catholic Europeans for many centuries. And the Ottoman Empire was actually a Goliath for its time. Like, yeah, it wasn't perfect, and it didn't control, like, it didn't have a firm control over a lot of its territory, especially like in later centuries. But it was a Goliath for its time, and it's actually considered a caliphate. Is that how you pronounce it? Caliphate? Yeah, I think that's how I pronounce it. I'm sorry if I mispronounce words. But yeah, it was the Ottoman Empire back in its heyday was probably one of the most powerful nations to ever exist. But by the time of the 1800s and early 1900s, the Ottoman Empire was just in such terminal decline. There was just no saving it.
The Ottoman were divided on whether to actually join the war or not, since they had been exhausted by the recent Balkan Wars. Some of the politicians who did want to join went off on their own and fired some shells at Russia.
Why though?
They came back and said, "Whoops, looks like we're at war now." The Ottoman entry into the war.
Why would you get involved though? Like, you just got done fighting 2 Balkan Wars years prior. Your military's exhausted. Your equipment is outdated. And okay, actually, let me take a step back, right? So you just got done fighting not just a Balkan War, 2 Balkan Wars, but you also got done fighting Italy, which took like your last African possession in Liberia, only like a decade prior. And you want to get involved in the largest conflict in human history at this point? Why? Like, at this point, I would have just stayed out. I would have stayed out of it. You know what would have been great for you guys? To focus on rebuilding your nation, first of all. Like, modernize your nation. Look, upgrade your equipment. Maybe focus on like everything, because the Ottoman Empire was just a mess at this point. Like, they lost like all their territories for the most part. This was pretty much all that was left of the Ottoman Empire. Just this right here. They lost almost all their European territories except for Constantinople. God, I cannot talk today. Apparently. Yeah, that's all of the European territory they had left. When they once upon a time like owed all this, and they had all of northern Africa for the most part. This was all that was left of the Ottoman Empire.
Of particular concern to the British, since the Middle East was full of oil, and Britain wanted all of that oil.
Yep.
First, the Ottomans tried to attack Russia in the Caucasus Mountains, but they weren't prepared for the cold, and many of them froze to death. Then they crossed miles of desert to take the Suez Canal from the British, but that failed too. Then the Allies tried to take the Dardanelles at Gallipoli in a long and hard trench warfare campaign, but that also failed. The Ottomans blamed their initial losses on the ethnic Armenians living within Ottoman territory, and the resulting Armenian genocide led to the deaths of 1.5 million people.
Which Turkey today still denies. Turkey today still does not recognize the Armenian genocide of World War I. The Ottoman Empire did. And if I remember, it's actually considered a crime in Turkey to mention the Armenian genocide. You can actually get arrested and fined for even mentioning it.
Then the Germans sent spies into Afghanistan to try to convince the Arab tribes there to rise up in jihad against the British and attack India. But that plan failed, partly because the spies got bored, brewed their own alcohol, and got drunk.
Good job, guys.
Bad thing to do in Afghanistan. All these new frontiers hadn't done much to change the war. Aware that the Allies had more men and supplies than them, the Germans knew they had to do something to break the stalemate. Before the war, there was a big conference that set out the rules of modern warfare. No chemical weapons, no killing civilians. Basically, don't be jerks. The Germans held a meeting and decided to be jerks. Zeppelin air raids commenced over British cities. They also started attacking the Allied trenches with chlorine gas, and they used submarines to sink civilian ships. One such civilian ship was the Lusitania, which had 159 Americans on board when it was sunk, further swaying U.S. opinion against the Germans. Not to be completely unfair to the Germans, the Allies also engaged in chemical warfare soon after, and they had been hiding anti-submarine weapons on their civilian ships, which let the Germans justify their attacks.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Austria-Hungary still hadn't dealt with Serbia.
How? Austria, just fucking listen to Germany, homie. Like, you guys have been fighting. Like, this is the whole reason you guys got. This is the whole reason the war started, was because you two were bickering, and they assassinated your world leader, and you still can't conquer a nation who still didn't have boots. Like, they didn't have boots, and you were fucking getting your ass kicked by them. I'm like, bro.
So the Central Powers enlisted some help. Bulgaria wished it was bigger and
Yeah.
was still bitter about losing the Second Balkan War. The Central Powers promised to make all of Bulgaria's wildest dreams come true if they helped, so they signed on, and together they knocked out Serbia. The Serbian troops retreated through Albania, which was neutral but had some ties to Austria-Hungary. So Austria-Hungary entered Albania in a friendly invasion to chase down the Serbians, many of whom escaped by sea. It's 1916, and a lot is happening. As if they didn't have enough enemies already, Germany added one more to the list.
Why?
Portugal had been getting a bit chummy with the Allies behind the scenes, and Germany didn't like that one bit.
Why would you do that? Like, Portugal and British have a long alliance. I believe it's actually one of, if not the longest alliances, active alliances in the world today. Like they've been allies for centuries. Like these two have been close for so fucking long. And like of course they're gonna have like friendly relations with them. But the fact that you jumped the gun and declared war on Portugal was just a bad move on your part. It was kind of like when Germany declared in World War II, and Germany declared war in America. When America declared war in Japan, even though Germany didn't have to. Like, bro, that's called shooting yourself in the foot, because now you have another enemy you have to worry about. It's like even if you were able to stop or take down France and Russia, now you have Italy, you have Portugal, you have the British to deal with. Like this one could have easily been avoided. You didn't have to declare war on Portugal.
Around the same time, the only sea battle of the war happened. Both sides had a new powerful class of battleships called dreadnoughts, but they were so expensive to build that neither side wanted to risk losing them in a battle. So they kept them in port, except for one time when they had a big fight and a bunch of them got damaged. So they didn't try that again.
You're like, all right, not gonna do that one again.
They started conscripting men to the army, so they had plenty of reserves, which is just as well because the Western Front was about to get brutal. The longest and one of the bloodiest battles of the war started when the Germans launched an attack around the French city of Verdun. The French defended it desperately, leading to hundreds of thousands of casualties. Under pressure, the French called on its allies to do something to draw the Germans' attention away. So the British started their own long and brutal fight, the Battle of the Somme, with 60,000 British casualties
Jesus.
the first day.
60,000 people 60,000 British soldiers alone died in just one day in this battle. Are you, bro? That's like, dude, that's like unthinkable. In one day, British soldiers alone had 60,000 casualties. Jesus Christ, man, that's insane.
It was also here that the British.
Oh, yep. First, they get the tank. The British brought in the first tank since the war.
One crazy brand new piece of sci-fi technology. The Russians had been getting pushed back.
Which the tanks in World War I were not good at all. They just weren't. But it was the first war that tanks were introduced. But the early tanks were just not good at all.
Further and further into their own territory. But in response to the French call for help, they began a huge offensive and did really well until they ran out of supplies and got stuck. Seeing how well the Russians had been doing, Romania decided now would be a great time to jump in and win the war. And then they got pounded.
Good job, Romania.
Amongst themselves about whether to join the war or not. The king liked the Central Powers, while the Prime Minister wanted to join the Allies. After a brief national schism, during which the country split into two, the king finally abdicated and the country reunited. With Allied help, they began a new offensive. In the Middle East, Russia was pushing into Ottoman territory from the north. The British had also made a landing in Mesopotamia to protect Persia's oil fields, and they had also sent a small army up the Tigris River to try to take Baghdad, but the army got sieged in the town of Kut along the way, and eventually surrendered. A new offensive was launched from the south with all-out desert warfare. The offensive was aided by one famous British officer, better known as Lawrence of Arabia, who helped lead the Arab tribes in a revolt that wreaked havoc on the Ottoman supply lines. By the time 1917 rolled around, everyone was exhausted. There were mutinies in the French army, the German populace was starving, and the war had drained all of Russia's supplies. There was no clear winner, and it was still anyone's war. The only question now was, who was going to break first?
Russia.
And the answer was Russia. Tired of not eating, and mad that a crazy magic homeless guy was calling some of the
Rasputin is one of the most insane people ever. Like, I don't know if I have no idea if we're ever going to do a video on Rasputin or not. or like watch or react to a video of Rasputin. But if I guess we don't, look up Rasputin. Look up like everything he did. It's insane. Like he's a whole nother character himself. He's definitely a cult of personalities.
An uprising in Petrograd, complete with riots and strikes. The riots turned into a full-scale revolution, and a new government overthrew the Tsar. Then a few months later, the Bolsheviks overthrew the new government.
And that became Soviet Union.
Russia out of the war. This was great news for Germany, who now only had to focus on the Western Front. But there was still one problem. The pesky United States of America was looking increasingly like it was going to join the war. America had been selling supplies to the Allies throughout the war and was getting super rich off the back of it, meaning it was in fantastic shape and was dangerous to the Germans. So Germany sent a telegram to Mexico saying, "Wouldn't it be crazy cool if you guys attacked America?" But the British intercepted the message, showed it to the Americans, and that was the final straw. American troops began shipping out to Europe.
Good job, Germany. I just don't think Mexico would have been any help at all. Even if the telegram did get there, I feel like America would have crushed Mexico pretty easily. Like Mexico at this point was not in a good position at all. Like it probably would have like held off America a few weeks at most. Like Mexico at this point, it just they were having their own problems. We could go into it, but that'd be like that's a whole other can of worms. So yeah, it just it would have bought Germany a couple of weeks, maybe a few months at most, but at least a couple of weeks, if that.
Terrible news for Germany, and they knew their only hope now was to force France and the UK to surrender before the fresh American troops arrived. It was now or never, so they started one final attack. They converged their troops and hit hard at the Somme and pushed the Allies back. They hit a second time further north, then again and again. With each hit, the Germans were spending more and more resources, while the Allies were getting better and better at repelling their attacks. By the fifth punch, the Allies held the line and even pushed back. With American troops now arriving in larger numbers, the Allies launched a counterattack, and that was it. The Central Powers were being pushed back on all fronts. Bulgaria collapsed first, followed by the Ottoman Empire, then Austria-Hungary, and finally on November 11th, 1918, at 11 o'clock, Germany surrendered.
11.
Germany was forced to reduce its military, accept war guilt, and pay the bill for the war. After indescribable suffering and millions dead, the world learnt its lesson and never had such an awful war again.
For about 20 years.
For about 20 years.
Yeah. So it's crazy that Germany is one that has a guilt for World War I. Like I would say Austria has to take which should don't take the guilt for it because they're the one who basically, and I would say probably Austria and Serbia are probably the ones that have to take guilt for it. They're the ones that kind of lit the spark, which led to World War I. I mean, yeah, Germany wrote the blank check, and they're probably the most powerful nation in World War I. But in terms of like military, like obviously, I'd say probably British is probably the most powerful nation just in general with the amount of resources and territory they control and people. But yeah, it's no bueno. Anyways, that's the end of World War I, Part 1 and 2 of Oversimplified. If you guys do the content, first of all, go check out Oversimplified. They're awesome. They do awesome history, the history animations like this. They have a bunch of cool stuff. They have hilarious and fun animations. So check them out. They deserve it. It's like if you don't know, like, seriously, they're probably one of the coolest channels on YouTube. If you're a history, or if you want to get into history, they're definitely a channel to get into. If you want to start learning more about history, they're definitely the channel to go to, in my opinion. But yeah, if you enjoyed the content and commentary, make sure to hit the like button. If you're new, stick around. Join my dark best friend, join the Satire Mafia. And yeah. Anyways, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.
Gonna be on myself so I can truly build. Hey.